Hello, everyone. It's me, Pastor Scott Boggs of the Potter's Church. You can go to thepotterschurch.com, find out more about the ministry that my wife and I oversee. And it's Sunday morning. We're going to do this coffee with Pastor Scott. So if you got the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to sit down and I'm just going to speak from my heart this morning. And today I want to talk about the kind of controversial topic of divorce. And when I say controversial topic, it's what I mean by that. It's just it's a topic not not a happy topic to talk about. Yet sometimes I think one that's not talked about often enough. The reality, the truth is that in our society today, it's 2019, divorce is a common thing. As a matter of fact, growing up in the community I grew up in, and a lot of the peers and the friends that I grew up with, it was very common. I knew a lot more kids who were living in between parents and had stepmoms and stepdads and stepbrothers and stepsisters than I actually grew up knowing families that actually had made it and stuck together and had never divided or split. My book, if you get a chance, check out my book. It's called Through It All. You can get it at Amazon right now, Amazon.com, by Scott Adrian Boggs, the book Through It All. And there's some talk about that, about growing up myself with a mom and dad who divorced when I was 7, and my peers, a lot of my friends who had similar situations. Today, what I want to talk about is, as a minister and having some personal experience with what it was like to be a child of divorced parents. I've heard a lot of confessions, and people just tend to tell me the mistakes that they've made in their life, and confess the errors and the wrongdoings they've done. And I've heard over and over again, just like the wisdom of King Solomon tells us in the Bible, there truly is nothing new under the sun. It seems like the same tactics or the same strategic ways that the enemy has successfully ripped apart and destroyed one marriage tends to be the same arsenal and the same strategic ways that he's using to rip apart other families. And the wife and I were talking about this earlier this week, how because people feel like the disconnect that they're going through in their marriage, when there's a marriage that is crumbling apart, or when two spouses who used to be like magnets, inseparable, have gotten so far in different directions that they've had that magnetic flip and now they're repelling each other, like two flip magnets. With those disconnects that so subtly and then so quickly just happen and propel two people away from one another, because husbands and wives feel that those things are so personal, and they're scared to share them, and they're scared to open up and share what's going on in their relationship. They may post the happy Facebook pictures. They may, put all the positive memes out there on social media, or only Instagram their happy smiling moments as a family. But behind closed doors, what we found is that there's a similar thing happening in a certain season in marriage, and a certain time in marriage, that we see the enemy most successful in dividing and conquering and ultimately destroying homes and families and ripping homes and families apart. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. I've always said that I never really wanted to teach too much on marriage or raising kids until I've successfully raised my own kids and they're all doing well, and until I've had some time under my belt as a faithful husband and a provider and good family man to qualify myself to speak on these topics. And Anya and I have been together. It's going to be 16 years coming up. And of course, this isn't coming from somebody who's got 60 years married, but I think we're doing okay. And we have had the ministerial experience. Sometimes I feel that sometimes I feel like being a minister and hearing the confessions and hearing people open up and just being honest, and me just learning to listen, to take the posture to listen. I think sometimes I feel like I'm learning more and making notes to myself. Okay, don't do that. Don't make the mistake that he made, or oh, don't get caught up in what she was doing there. Hearing the aftermath and seeing the shipwrecks that become of people's lives, marriages, homes, businesses, you name it. And being a minister that gets to hear all of that when people are trying to pick up the broken pieces. Sometimes I feel like I receive more than what I often am able even to give. But with that said, I want to talk about this phase in marriage when a husband and a wife are having children, when babies enter the picture. What I've seen often is, when it's the boy and the girl meet each other, and it's in the honeymoon days of their marriage, and they've had their wedding, courthouse, church marriage, big wedding, small wedding, whatever, it's neither here nor there, but they're infatuated with each other and they literally become each other's world. Everything to the boy is about that girl, and everything to the girl is about that boy, and they're totally inseparable, and they're 100% infatuated and given and head over heels for one another. And it's a beautiful phase in the marriage. But then, as what we see a lot of times is when they have children, the wife now has there's a lot more responsibility that comes to the wife and the husband. Now the husband has a greater pressure on him to earn more income, which may cause him to have to go out this way a little more and work more hours, or get a different job, or be a little more preoccupied in his mind about how he's going to provide and make an income and make a living for his spouse, his beloved, his betrothed, his world. And as the children come, now it becomes for her and the children. In the wife, she's got more responsibilities coming on her, more things that she's got to be able to respond to, like crying babies, and if it's plural, if it's more than one baby, well, that gets very demanding. Laundry, she might be doing laundry or doing cooking dinners, or she may be herself career oriented and driven and out there trying to earn an income, or build an empire or whatever. Just have her mind set on becoming successful in business and career. I'm not trying to typecast or generalize whether you're a Mr. Mom or at home with the kids while the wife works, or vice versa, or if you're both working and you're paying and you make enough income to pay daycare, to take care of the kids. I mean, the cookie could crumble many different ways. It's just, as you can see, there's now more things to be concerned about, and more things to manage, and more things dividing your attention than what was just one another, often like it was in the beginning. Often what we see now too is there becomes a disconnect in the intimate connection and the emotional needs being met one by another, like they were in the beginning between a boy and a girl. And the wife, for an example, I can't tell you how many times I hear this story of a wife who, at the end of the day now, after spending herself and exhausting herself and dividing herself in 20 different directions, because that's the beauty of moms. Glory to God. They're definitely going on the strength of God. At the end of the day, even maybe falling asleep in a bed with the children, spent and exhausted, and a husband laying in the bed at the end of the day after work, coming home and hoping and looking forward to nothing else but maybe just spending some quality time with his wife again, like it was in the beginning, laying up in a bed angrier, angry and fuming inside and mad, thinking that the wife doesn't want to have anything to do with him anymore, or that she's ignoring him, while she's actually getting her emotional needs met in many ways with those cuddling babies. This is stuff that really happens, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. This is real things that happen, that we see over and over again happening, especially in those early stages of a marriage and family. And then to make it worse, we've seen guys who, because the wife isn't showing him much attention, and her attention is being dispersed in other things that are important. He might get the wrong idea or the seed sown in his head, or maybe the wrong influences at work, saying stupid things, and get the idea that there must be somebody else that will, because she's never initiating any affection or intimacy with me, and she's not even wanting to sleep in the same bed with me, and she doesn't even seem like she even really has time for me anymore. Well, she must be getting that need met somewhere else. And, deal with guys who watch pornography. This just makes it even worse, the seed sown in the head, because now he's laying up in a bed at night while the kids are in a bed with her somewhere, or she's crashed out somewhere with them, thinking things like, thinking that his wife is sleeping with the mailman, the plumber, the football coach, and every other guy on the planet. And then this begins this thing of not trusting, or a man looking at his wife all suspect, or her phone rings and he's like, well, who's calling her? And it just gets from there. These things just get pushed, and the husband and the wife are now growing more and more disconnected, and she can't understand why why he's not jumping to help her. Well, why isn't he helping me with laundry? How come he's not helping me put these kids to bed? How come he can't put the dishes away or make a dinner or do something? How come he's not as into this marriage and into me and the kids as, and what's going on? And she may even think that maybe he's got somebody, and all these lies, all these lies that propel the disconnect between the spouses, and promote more anger and jealousy and fear and pride and all these ugly things, that are just being, all lies, that successfully I see the enemy using to destroy and rip apart families and homes, especially in those earlier phases of marriage, when a husband is learning to acclimate to the greater responsibility that comes on him, and the wife is acclimating and falling into that role of greater responsibility that is now on her, to keep and manage and host a healthy family and home. Instead of young people who, some may, have had a healthy example. Some have read the right book. Some may have good counsel, grandparents or parents in their life who speak into their life and can explain that, the husband, he needs that time. The wife needs her time. You both need your space, but you also need to work it into the schedule to connect again one another. And instead of believing all the lies that come and tear families apart, get rooted and grounded in the love and the truth that there's just greater things for each of you to be dispersed and given to now. And in that broadening of you now having to diversify your attention, your strength, your time, and your energy, how important it is to still maintain that connection and that togetherness and that communication and that trust. Huge one, trust. Oh my God, we see that one tear apart families like you wouldn't believe. That can maintain that trust between one another. You may be blessed to have people around you that you could openly talk about these issues. I think he might be seeing somebody else, or I think there has to be somebody else, because she doesn't even initiate with me. She just wants to go right to bed at night, and she doesn't spend no time with me. And all these things, the tired, spent wife who might have a little more energy at the end of the day, if a husband could find it in his own time management to help in the house a little bit. Um, when two spouses work to love and serve and help each other to keep a healthy home, a healthy front, a healthy, everything that you need to happen in a house, the daily tasks that need to go on, um, you're actually working to create time for each other to be able to have that downtime once again, you and your spouse. If you haven't had anybody to counsel or speak these things into your life, I'm hoping I can do that for you right now. It is true that if you don't have good role models or good counsel or good books or good influences in your life, you can get surrounded by all the wrong influences, the people that are encouraging you, telling you wrong things like, well, if it's just not naturally working in your relationship, maybe it's time to move on. Um, no, that's bogus, because you do have to work on your marriage. You do have to work on your relationship with your kids. You do have to work on connection, and it has to be intentional. And there is a lot of things going on in this life that if we get too distracted and too pulled away in any one direction, there's also a lot of influences that'll meet us down any one road and try to encourage us into something other than keeping and maintaining and cultivating a healthy marriage, family, and home. Um, Also, I don't think that people need to feel embarrassed, or it doesn't need to be a taboo topic to be able to honestly say that you are having these feelings, that maybe you are having trust issues, maybe you are having a hard time understanding why there's a disconnect when there used to be such a connect, and just didn't understand or haven't been able to realize that these are actually simple little tweaks that you could make a little adjustments in your daily routines and in your mind frame, to correct and repair any disconnect that has been growing, and get back into that healthy connection that you and your spouse or betrothed had before the day you took those covenant vows, one unto another, till death do you part, for your sake and for your children's sake. And so I just wanted to speak some of those things out there that I've seen, so the enemy used so successfully in tearing apart marriages and families. And they're simple, silly things. Well, they're not silly things, because they are things that actually do divide homes. But they are easily corrected things when we realize that, yeah, man, it's hard. It's hard to be young and to be preoccupied, to be a man worried about how to, provide. And then just thinking, well, once I'm spent, figuring an ad out, I'm spent my days at work, and I just want to come home and be able to connect with my wife. And by the time he comes home, the wife is spent doing what she does in her work of provision and providence, and she's already spent and exhausted, ready to crash out, and doesn't have much more energy for you at the end of the day. And it's not that she doesn't love you, or that she's found somebody else, all that junk and stupid stuff that we hear all the time. It's really that you both are just stressed and preoccupied and fully spent and given to other things, that you've forgotten about saving a little bit of yourself for each other. So I hope this is something that can help. With that said, I do know that divorce a lot of times is inevitable. I do believe that there is love after love. I do believe that people have gotten divorced and gotten out of unhealthy situations and have been blessed and have gotten into better, healthier situations. And that would be a topic for another day. So I don't want anybody going away. If you are divorced, feeling condemned by this message, we'll make another message that deals with those, with people who have been through that, and are finding life, love, forgiveness, and restoration on the other side of that. But this message today was one that I'm hoping will just encourage and help young families stick it through and ride it out, and realize that, the way that you manage your time and the way that you commit to helping one another uh, really is, it's all about fighting to get that time and that space again, to where you and the one that you were like this at the beginning with can go out there and tackle everything you need to tackle in a day, and then still come back together like this at the end of each day. So love you, love your families. God bless you, and we'll see you next week. Peace.